Okay, day 2. Let's go. Episode 4. Conquer by a Drawn Game. I will say this documentary series, there's just so much information. It's awesome, but it's hard to take in all of these events, this information, the facts, the history.
He also feared that the 13 former colonies would never come together as a nation.
Even though they just signed the Declaration of Independence document, because this was after 1776.
There's a common observation here that our cause is the cause of all mankind, and that we are fighting for their liberty in defending our own.
It's amazing how much activity happened within this one decade or two. Like, it's incredible.
They possess some of the requisites for making good troops, such as extreme cunning, great industry, and a spirit of enterprise upon any advantage. Though it was once the fashion of this army to treat them in the most contemptible light, they are now become a formidable army. Lieutenant William Harcourt.
They have some of America's songs in the background. You can hear them off and on throughout the series so far, and that's a nice touch. Gives you that patriotic feeling.
His men began to fall back. Washington once again galloped to the front, ignoring the bullets flying all about him, exhorting his men to stand and fight.
Sounds like a Hollywood movie where just shots are firing in slow motion, but instead of going towards George Washington and hitting him, they just go around him. That's what I'm imagining in my head right now.
70 Americans had been killed or wounded in the Battle of Princeton, but the enemy had lost another 450.
450. Oh my gosh. That's so much death. So much death.
Most of the troops who had offered to stay after Trenton went home as soon as their re-enlistment was up. By the end of January, Washington had fewer than 3,000 Continentals in his camp.
My gosh, so few.
When patriotic speeches and free rum failed to attract enough recruits, some states instituted drafts. Names were drawn from a hat. Married men were exempted. Property draftees wanting to avoid service could hire substitutes at fees to be negotiated with their replacements.
Man, isn't that nerve-wracking? Like, the idea that you might be drafted for war just by your name being picked up inside of a hat, like, I would be absolutely terrified.
To escape persecution and fight for his king, the Vermont loyalist John Peters had fled to Canada in 1776, leaving behind his wife Anne and their 6 children. After his defection, Patriot seized his home and evicted his family.
That's awful, on all accounts.
The smallpox has made such headway in every quarter that I find it impossible to keep it from spreading.
The smallpox is still around? Oh my gosh.
I have determined not only to inoculate all the troops now here that had not had smallpox, but shall order the doctors to inoculate the recruits as fast as they come in.
It's a really risky position to be in, and a very risky decision to make. You're in war, but smallpox is happening. Like, what can you do in that situation to make sure that you could still fight, but also not get smallpox, not get sick?
On June 20th, 1777, Burgoyne's enormous army began moving south on Lake Champlain. Scores of birch bark canoes paddled by Native Americans came first.
I don't think I realized how much the Native Americans were involved in this war. For some reason in my head, I thought they were just minding their own business.
Many of our party retreated into the woods. I made shelter for myself and discharged my piece. But before I had time to reload it, I received a musket ball in the small of my back.
Gosh.
Though in great pain, Ebenezer Fletcher decided to escape. He slipped away into the forest, eluded hungry wolves and bands of loyalists, and eventually made it home to New Ipswich, New Hampshire. Once he healed, he would return to serve out his 3-year enlistment.
Yeah, these men are so brave. If I got shot like that, heck no, I'm not coming back. The fact that these men could get so injured, but then just after a couple months or a couple years, shrug it off and just go back into war. Very strong, very brave.
The revolutionaries believed that the American people would have to be educated. Without education, there could be no virtue in the populace, and without virtue in the populace, the government would fail. Republics are based on authority coming from the bottom up, not like monarchies from the top down. So you require an educated, virtuous, they use that term over and over, drawing it from antiquity, virtuous population to sustain a republican government.
Yeah, people aren't just born good and smart. You have to teach people what it means to be good. You have to give people knowledge in order to be smart. So education is really important. How to think, how to read, how to write, like all those things are really, really important. If you don't have that, then you don't have a fair and virtuous society.
When Washington finally got word that the British had entered the Chesapeake, he realized where they were headed and hurried his army
really
to defend
scary.
Philadelphia.
Basically the capital of America during this time, and the British troops are slowly inching towards that area to seize that place. Like, oh, the plot is thickening.
As the rebels were coming up, I observed a man fire at me, which I returned. He loaded again as he came up crying out, "Peters, you damn Tory, I've got you." I saw that it was a rebel captain, Jeremiah Post, an old schoolfellow and playmate, and a cousin of my wife's. He rushed on me with his bayonet, which entered just below my left breast, but was turned by the bone.
That's really, really sad. Could you imagine turning against your own friend or a family member or a classmate, and you're the one that takes their life, all because you are on different sides of a war, have different views of this political conflict? Like, that's just
Patriots eventually prevailed.
depressing.
They were in all stages of suffering, and some were dying. Some of their fellow soldiers, who were less seriously wounded, would go to a dying comrade, and kneeling by his side, would clasp their hands, bow their heads, and swaying their bodies up and down, would mutter prayers in their own language. And when death came to him, they would pass to another.
War sucks. So sad. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but truly, like, war's not a happy thing. It's not a fun thing. It's not, it's devastating. It's a devastating thing to experience or go through, or even just to watch. Like, it's just so sad that our history is so full of war and death and suffering and despair. It's just, life sucks. Life sucks so much. And you can only pray that you don't go through what these men and women had to go through.
During a short meeting devoted mostly to fiscal matters, the Continental Congress had called for a new flag to represent their new...
I was about to say, when are we going to get the American flag, like the official American flag?
Although artists often included the stars and stripes in their post-war romantic renderings of revolutionary events, it is not known ever actually to have been flown by the Continental Army above a battlefield. Nor does anyone know
Oh, really?
who made the first one.
That's interesting. I thought we did know who made the first one.
When an 800-man Patriot militia column, commanded by General Nicholas Herkimer, reached Oriska, an Oneida settlement on Oriskany Creek, just 8 miles from the embattled Fort Stanwix, 60 Oneida chiefs and warriors joined them. They were ready to fight alongside their white neighbors and help thwart the British invasion.
So different tribes fought against each other depending on if they were with the British or the Americans.
Loyalists fired from above, while hundreds of Native Americans allied with the British ran down among the startled men, wielding tomahawks.
So honestly, it just did not matter, like, what race you were or where you lived. It all just depended on what your political views were. Are you with me or are you with them?
I think one of the really great examples of the difficulties of any kind of sort of neutral place is what happens to the Quakers. over the course of the war. The Quakers are famously pacifist, and that's not good enough in revolutionary America.
They're like, you must take a side. This is war.
Washington paraded his men through the streets of Philadelphia. He hoped to persuade its citizens that his army would be able to defend them. Many in the crowd cheered. Others remained stone-faced. Among the officers riding alongside Washington that day was a Frenchman, Marie-Joseph Paul Yves Roche Gilbert Dumotier.
That's a long name.
Congress had just made him a major general. He was just 19 years old.
Just 19? Yeah, some of these people are really young.
Lafayette comes without a word of English, but just with this sense that the American continent is the continent on which he will make his name, on which he stakes his glory, and with a willingness to essentially do anything that needs to be done for the sake of American independence.
Lafayette?
Washington again misreads the ground. He has made tactical errors earlier in the war at the Battle of Long Island, and he makes another one at Brandywine.
Sounds like George Washington made a lot of mistakes. It really shows how human he is, honestly. He wasn't this perfect general that never made mistakes. He made plenty of mistakes.
Night fell. General Howe lamented that if he had more time, he could have brought about the rebel army's total overthrow.
The Americans, only by the grace of darkness, get away.
The grace of darkness.
It's a serious defeat for the Americans. It is going to open the gateway toward Philadelphia.
Truly, the weather and time really helped out George Washington and his army. There's so many times where Washington's army was so close to being completely wiped out by the British Army, but because of a fog or winter or nighttime, because of those natural events happening, George Washington and his army were able to run away by the skin of their teeth.
When German General Friedrich Adolf Riedesel left Europe in 1776 to join General Burgoyne's northern campaign, he had left his pregnant wife and 2 small daughters at home. But as soon as she could, after her 3rd daughter was born, Baroness Riedesel crossed the Atlantic with all 3 girls. In mid-August, she caught up with her husband.
You brought your 3 little girls to the battlefield?
Imagine what a battlefield looks like after a battle. It has a lot of bodies. It has a lot of blood and gore. And it was the job of women to go in and take care of those bodies, to clean them up, to identify them.
I feel forlorn and desolate. And the world appears like a dreary desert, almost without any visible protecting hand to guard us from the ravenous wolves and lions that prowl about for prey, seeking to devour those harmless innocents that don't go hand in hand with them in their cruelty and rapine.
Her husband's only crime, Sarah Fisher said, was that he saw himself as a subject of Britain.
Just crazy that everybody's biggest crime is just who they politically stand with. I don't understand why people have to, depending on where you stand politically, why the other person has to be a villain. Just because someone thinks differently than you does not make them a villain, and you should not treat them as such. Whether that is forcing people out of their homes or sending them to prisons, like all of that is just, I mean, stupid is the only word that's coming in my head, but I do think it's stupid. It's stupid to wish harm on somebody else or to force somebody to leave their homes or something like that just because they think differently than you.
At least 53 patriots were stabbed to death, and more than 200 were wounded or captured. Americans would remember it as the Paoli Massacre. Washington gave up hope of holding Philadelphia. 6 days after the massacre, September 26, 1777, General Cornwallis led 3,000 victorious British troops into Philadelphia.
Oh, so they did take over Philadelphia.
General Cornwallis himself led the counterattack. His troops freed Musgrave's men from the Chew House and drove the Americans back along the roads they'd followed into town. The British had won, again.
Again. Come on, Washington, why do you keep losing?
Washington's not a great field commander, but he's resilient, and he understands the kind of war he's fighting. At some point, he reaches the insight, and it's a basic insight. He doesn't have to win. The British have to win. He only has not to lose.
He's looking at the big picture. He's big picture oriented, not detail oriented, it sounds like.
They were meant in part to demonstrate to France that the 13 former colonies could act effectively together. But the result was not a government.
They needed to have a way to pay for wars. They needed to run wars. They needed to possess native lands. They needed to redistribute those lands. But the Articles had so much political compromise that it wasn't a functional, centralized government.
By design, the Articles of Confederation were weak and constrained.
So it failed to do what it needed to do.
Maguire suddenly darted like lightning from his companions and resolutely plunged into the stream. At the very same moment, one of the American soldiers, seized with a similar impulse, resolutely dashed into the water from the opposite shore. The wondering soldiers on both sides beheld them eagerly swim towards the middle of the river where they met. They hung on each other's necks and wept. They were brothers. One was in the British and the other in the American service, totally ignorant until that hour that they were engaged in hostile combat against each other's life.
How do they even get in that position? Two brothers on opposite sides having to fight one another. I mean, can you imagine going to war against your own sibling? This war truly broke families and friends and comrades. Just so depressing.
At first, Philadelphia Loyalists had welcomed British troops into their city. But as it grew colder that autumn, homeowners would be forced to take officers into their homes, whether they wanted to.
That's so stupid.
There were soon very bad accounts of the licentiousness of the English officers deluding young girls.
Oh my gosh. These people welcome you into their town. And what do? You force yourself into their homes, take their food, take their water, take their clothing. Talk about disrespect.
Louis XVI agreed. America is triumphant, he said, and England beaten.
Burgoyne's surrender at Saratoga is a crushing blow, and it impresses the French. But the French are also impressed by George Washington's survival.
Despite all his mistakes, he is somehow still alive.
We're talking about a war effort that the colonies could not have provided for themselves. And the idea that a foreign power bankrolled that effort and that it would have been impossible without them, that's the chapter we don't like to think too much about, because our sense of our independence is that it's something that we achieved on our own.
I never thought of it that way. It's okay to ask for help if you need it. And obviously, America desperately needed help.
In North America was about to ignite another global war.
The French are coming to the rescue.